Chapter 21. The Morning Trial. As soon as it was clear daylight, Caiaphas, Annas, the ancients and scribes assembled in the great hall to hold a trial perfectly lawful. Trial by night was not legal. That of the preceding night had been held only because time pressed on account of the feast, and that some of the preparatory attestations might be taken. Most of the members had passed the rest of the night in side chambers in Caiaphas's house, or on couches prepared for them above the judgment hall. But many, such as Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, went away and returned at daybreak. It was a large assembly, and business was conducted in a very hurried manner. When now they held counsel against Jesus in order to condemn him to death, Nicodemus, Joseph of Arimathea, and a few others opposed his enemies. They demanded that the case should be postponed till after the festival, in order not to give rise to a tumult among the people. They argued also that no just sentence could be rendered upon the charges as yet brought forward, since all the witnesses had contradicted one another. The high priests and their large party became exasperated by this opposition, and they told their opponents in plain terms that they understood clearly why this trial was so repugnant to them, since, perhaps, they themselves were not quite innocent of having taken part in the doctrines of the Galilean. The high priests even went so far as to exclude from the council all those that were in any way well disposed toward Jesus. These members protested against taking any part in its proceedings, left the judgment hall, and betook themselves to the temple. From that time forward, they never sat in the council. Caiaphas now ordered poor, abused Jesus, who was consumed from want of rest, to be brought from the prison and presented before the council, so that after the sentence he might without delay be taken to Pilate. The servants hurried tumultuously into the prison, overwhelmed Jesus with words of abuse, loosened his hands, dragged the old tattered mantle from his shoulders, put on him his own long woven robe, which was still covered with all kinds of filth, fastened the ropes again around his waist, and led him forth from the prison. All this was accompanied with blows, by way of hastening the operation, for now, as before, all took place with violent hurry and horrible barbarity. Like a poor animal for sacrifice, with blows and mockery, Jesus was dragged by the executioners into the judgment hall through the rows of soldiers assembled in front of the house. And as through ill treatment and exhaustion he presented so unsightly an appearance, his only covering being his torn and soiled undergarment, the disgust of his enemies filled them with still greater rage. Compassion found no place in any one of those hardened Jewish hearts. Caiaphas, full of scorn and fury for Jesus standing before him in so miserable a plight, thus addressed him, "If thou be the anointed of the Lord, the Messiah, tell us." Then Jesus raised his head and with divine forbearance and solemn dignity said, "If I shall tell you, you will not believe me. And if I shall also ask you, you will not answer me, nor let me go. But hereafter the Son of Man shall be sitting on the right hand of the power of God." The members of the council glanced from one to another, and smiling scornfully, said to Jesus with disdain, "So then thou art the Son of God?" With the voice of eternal truth, Jesus answered, "Yes, it is as ye say, I am he." At this word of the Lord, all looked at one another, saying, "What need we any further testimony? For we ourselves have heard it from his own mouth." Then all rose up with abusive words against Jesus. The poor, wandering, miserable, destitute creature of low degree, who was their Messiah, and who would one day sit upon the right hand of God. They ordered the executioners to bind him anew, to place the chain around his neck, and to lead him as a condemned criminal to Pilate. A messenger had already been dispatched to notify Pilate to hold himself in readiness to judge a malefactor at an early hour, because on account of the coming festival, There was no time to be lost. Some words of dissatisfaction passed among them with regard to the Roman governor. They were vexed at having to send Jesus first to him. But they dared not themselves pronounce sentence of death in cases that concerned other than their religious laws and those of the temple. And as they wanted to bring Jesus to death with a greater appearance of justice, they desired that he should be judged as an offender against the emperor, and that the condemnation should come principally from the Roman governor. Soldiers were ranged in the outer court and in front of the house, and many of Jesus' enemies and others of the rabble were already gathered outside. The high priest and some other members of the council walked first, then followed the poor Savior among the executioners and a crowd of soldiers, and lastly came the mob. In this order they descended Sion into the lower city and proceeded to Pilate's palace. Many of the priests that had assisted at the late trial now went to the temple, where there was much to be done today.